I transmigrated into the womb of the female lead in a tragic novel. In 1 week, the male lead would dig me out to use as medicine for his white moonlight. Every night, I could only appear in my mother's dreams to teach her how to escape, but as I taught her, my mother started to turn dark. I transmigrated into a tragic novel filled with heart-wrenching, kidney-stealing, and uterus-removing plots. When I opened my eyes, scattered pills and medicine bottles came into view, along with a perfectly square room resembling a matchbox. Beside the pills, a slender woman's legs trembled as she struggled to stand up. Clearly, these legs didn't belong to me, and at this moment, I was submerged in a pool of warm liquid. Her hands, feet, and body were all disproportionately small. I tentatively waved my hand ever so slightly. Sure enough, a woman's sharp intake of breath hissed faintly above my head. She spoke weakly, yet her voice remained gentle and tender. "Be a good baby. Don't fuss with mommy, okay?" Holy moly, so I've transmigrated into the pregnant belly of the novel's female lead, Li Wei, becoming her unborn child. But if I remember correctly, this is one of those melodramatic tragedy novels. Her childhood sweetheart and husband, the male lead Ji Chen, would come with his people in a week's time, right before her due date, to take away both the umbilical cord and the baby, all to use them as medicinal ingredients for his terminally ill white moonlight. How utterly twisted. Since I've already transmigrated into this world, I'd better find a way to keep both this new mother and myself alive. Li Wei's mother had slowly moved back to lie on the bed by now. To ensure the herbal decoction plan proceeded without a hitch, Ji Chen had confined her to this remote island manor overseas a month earlier, completely severing her connection with the outside world, apart from a few butlers and servants who attended to her daily needs. The entire island was surrounded by ferocious beasts and heavily armed intelligent guard robots. On her very first day here, she was bitten on the leg by the Tibetan Mastiff in the courtyard. Thus, even with complete freedom of movement, she dared not take a single step outside this vast cage. But it wasn't entirely hopeless. I opened the estate blueprint provided by the storyline and began studying it carefully. First, we must crack the intelligent control hub here, this way. No matter what happens on this isolated island, Ji Chen won't be able to find out. After all, his focus is entirely on his terminally ill and unconscious white moonlight. He won't set foot on the island before the due date arrives. If there were a way to remind Mom and have her crack this thing, my first step toward escape might just be taken. As I was thinking this, the door suddenly creaked open with a gentle knock. "Madam, it's time for lunch." Two servants approached the bedside. Though their words were respectful, their movements showed no courtesy as they forcibly lifted Mother from the bed. "Madam, please remember to eat properly today." Servant A sighed. "The obstetrician will be coming to the manor today to examine you. Madam, we'd appreciate your cooperation. Otherwise, it's us who'll face the master's reprimand." Mother didn't respond to her, her eyes vacant as they stared at the row of surveillance cameras lining the corridor. Entering the living room, my attention was suddenly captured by a sophisticated computer setup. Just as the plot described, Ji Chen had arrogantly placed this smart control hub in the living room, counting on her ignorance of programming. "Madam, even if you don't care about your own health, you should at least think of the little one in your womb." Mayday urged Mother to eat. "They say fetuses share a telepathic bond with their mothers. Surely you wouldn't want your baby to grieve for you." Perhaps moved by the maid's words, Mother froze momentarily before slowly picking up her chopsticks. As I absorbed the nutrients she provided, I fell into contemplation. "Telepathic bond, you say? It seems not entirely impossible." I decided to employ an ancient method, delivering messages through dreams. Due to her husband's betrayal and abuse, combined with mild prenatal depression, Li Wei slept poorly every night and was extremely prone to vivid dreams. On just the first night, I saw her dreaming about Ji Chen. In her dream, her abdomen was brutally sliced open. Ji Chen cradled the newborn baby as if holding a priceless treasure, walking solemnly and reverently toward Tan Yai, his white moonlight lying on the hospital bed. The scene shifted abruptly. Tan Yai miraculously recovered instantly, embracing Ji Chen in a passionate kiss. Ugh, I couldn't bear to watch this scene as a tiny infant. I imagined myself as a 3-year-old girl, tearing apart this absurd dream. I walked over to Mom crouching in the corner of the dream space, reached out, and gently ruffled her hair. "Mom," she froze abruptly, then lifted her tear-streaked face, her gaze shifting from blankness to utter astonishment as she looked at me. "Why, Mommy, it's me, your baby." With my childish voice, I slowly crouched down, gently pried open her tightly clasped hands, and leaned forward to rest against her belly. Her abdomen grew increasingly warm. Mother's body suddenly trembled. "Are you my baby?" Her voice gradually filled with delight as she abruptly pulled me into a tight embrace. "To think I'd dream of you, and of you all grown up." As she spoke, she suddenly sighed again, two clear tears streaming down her face. "But I won't be able to watch you grow up. There's a way." I reached out and wiped her tears away. "Mommy, I don't want that bad daddy. Can't we run away?" "Run away." A flicker of hope lit up Mommy's eyes. But it quickly dimmed again as she shook her head weakly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Mommy's useless. Mommy can't escape. I can help Mommy escape." I clenched my tiny fists and gazed at her determinedly. "Mommy, I'll help you escape. Believe in me." "Okay." Time was tight, so I didn't bother with her bewildered expression and directly typed out the decryption code for her word by word. This was the decryption program I wrote in my past life. Designed specifically for simplicity and foolproof operation, I had no idea whether she remembered it or even believed me at all. The next morning when I woke up, Mom was leaning against the headboard, lost in thought for a full hour, until the butler and maid came to take her to breakfast. After breakfast, she deliberately asked to stay in the living room a while longer. "May I watch some TV here or use the computer to draw?" Mother stroked her pregnant belly and gave the butler a warm, gentle smile. "Of course." Upon hearing this, the butler and servants looked thrilled, nodding repeatedly. "Please go ahead, madam, please." After all, the obstetrician from yesterday's checkup had emphasized how physically fragile she was. In addition to paying attention to her diet, she needed ample sleep, a cheerful mood, and moderate activity to ensure a smooth delivery. With all the Manor's devices disconnected from external networks, even if she used them, there would be no way to call for help. So, under everyone's relieved gazes, Mom calmly sat down at the computer and opened Photoshop to paint. As the female lead, her character setting was that of a genius artist, but no one noticed that while she painted, she quietly saved the decryption program code I gave her onto the computer. I set the decryption time for 11 o'clock at night, after everyone in the manor had fallen asleep, but before the daily routine self-check of the smart core system began. To deal with the cameras in the room, Mother lay feigning sleep under the covers, her hands trembling faintly with excitement beneath the quilt. Fortunately, right at 11 o'clock sharp, with a sudden cessation of electromagnetic hum and mechanical whirring, the camera in the bedroom successfully powered down, its lens freezing mid-rotation. After a while, Mother cautiously rose from bed on tiptoe. She peered out the window several times. Outside, all the night patrolling guardian robots stood frozen in place, utterly motionless. She finally pressed her hand to her chest and sighed in relief. It actually worked. Yes, at least half successful. I happily kicked my little legs too, feeling the fetal movement. Mom grew even more excited and gently stroked her pregnant belly. "My baby. Mommy will get you out of here, I promise." Without hesitation, she turned and opened the door to leave. During the decryption process, the Central Intelligence System had paused its operations, rendering the entire manor eerily silent, but that didn't guarantee a smooth escape. The beasts lurking around the manor weren't under computer control, though in last night's dream, I did casually show Mom where the tool shed storing the tranquilizer guns was located. Who knows if she still remembers. Just as I was thinking this, Mom had already walked into the tool shed and taken out a tranquilizer gun. I silently watched as she deftly loaded the gun and calmly opened the door to step outside. Mom still had a bit of that protagonist aura about her. Soon enough, the two massive Tibetan mastiffs in the yard caught the scent of danger, rising with low growls to confront her. The glass partition in the foyer reflected Mother's face. The timidity in her eyes had long faded, replaced instead by a glint of eerie excitement. The next day, dawn barely broke. A clamor rose from downstairs, and I faintly heard the butler and servants discussing something. "Where did one of the Tibetan mastiffs in the yard go? This unconscious guy actually has tranquilizer darts on him. The den is also covered in blood. Damn it, what exactly happened last night? Why didn't the guard robots report any anomalies?" The sound of hurried footsteps grew louder and closer. Then the bedroom door was forcefully pushed open as the butler rushed in with a group of people, stopping abruptly before Mother. "Madam, are you all right?" Seeing Mother sitting composedly at her desk, the butler first sighed in relief, only for his expression to twist into horror the next instant as he stared at her. "Me, I'm perfectly fine." Mother stood up supporting her pregnant belly, smiling warmly at him. She casually turned slightly sideways, hiding the blood-stained hem of her long skirt behind her. Then, she raised a bag of fresh meat with her other hand, her eyes curved into crescents, her smile deepening. "Butler, I've had an epiphany. I should nourish myself better to welcome the baby's arrival. I suddenly crave barbecue. Could you kindly have these fresh cuts delivered to the kitchen?" The butler and attendants stood dumbfounded, plunged into tomb-like silence. Fresh meat, a missing Tibetan mastiff, and the faint lingering odor of game and blood in the bedroom. After a long while, the butler finally gathered his courage and tentatively asked Mother, "Madam, where did this bag of fresh meat come from?" "This." Mother shook the bag gently, tilting her head with a tender expression. "I couldn't sleep last night, so I went to the freezer and hand-picked these. This kind of meat that still oozes myoglobin after thawing is the freshest and most delicious, so could you please deliver it to the chef as soon as possible? I'd like to have it for breakfast." Her soft, gentle words would normally evoke sympathy, but today, they felt like a velvet dagger, startling the butler terribly. "Why yes, madam." His hands trembled as he took the bag of fresh meat. I saw him quickly turn and whisper something to the servant beside him. The servant dashed out immediately. Moments later, they came running back, completely out of breath. "The meat in the freezer has indeed gone missing, butler." Hearing this, the butler visibly relaxed his shoulders. Then, "Madam, please wait a moment, I'll arrange for it to be cooked immediately." He quickly left with his men. Mother was taken to the living room for breakfast while the butler sat before the smart hub, continuously running diagnostics. Apart from surveillance footage confirming Mother had indeed gone to the freezer compartment in the early hours, he'd found nothing. Still uneasy, he reported everything through the hub to Ji Chen nonetheless. "If this gets off the island, I'll eat my hat." I smugly adjusted myself into a more comfortable position. Meanwhile, the grilled meat Mom had ordered arrived at our table. Her expression never changed as she methodically sliced the steak and ate it piece by piece. The servants standing nearby were all terrified by her swift, decisive knife work, not daring to make a sound. Until Mother had finished all the steak and returned to her bedroom in high spirits, only then did sighs of relief gradually rise behind her, along with the butler's whispers. "Don't worry, everyone, the mistress is so weak now, the Tibetan Mastiff incident couldn't possibly be related to her. I've already reported this matter to the master. If the situation becomes serious, he'll surely come personally to handle it." As soon as the words were spoken, Mom's footsteps abruptly halted. Returning to her bedroom, she immediately locked the door, lay down on the bed, and fell asleep. I quickly sent her another dream visitation. Sure enough, the moment she saw me, she became so overwhelmed with emotion that she rushed forward and pulled me into her embrace. "Baby, Mommy really did it." Amidst her excitement, a sudden worry surfaced, but the butler said he'd report this to Ji Chen. "What if he actually comes and finds out?" "Don't worry, Mom," I thumped my chest reassuringly. "That bastard won't know anything about what happened here. All we have to do now is carry out the plan." I leaned close to her ear, explaining my next steps word by word. Mom's expression shifted from surprise to hesitation. "Sweetheart, your mom is so timid. Will this really be enough to intimidate them?" Indeed, Mom's character in the original text was soft and fragile, which is why she was repeatedly deceived by Ji Chen and plunged into the abyss. But remembering Mom's eyes last night, those eyes gleaming with sickness, excitement, and a faint light, I didn't hesitate to reassure her again. "Mom, you're not weak at all. The prey that hides its wildness deep within its heart is the true, invincible beast. I want to live with Mom, to grow up together." I nestled into her arms, acting coquettishly. Mother's eyes suddenly brightened a little as she murmured softly, "For my baby, Mommy will work hard." Before dinner, Mother took out another bag of fresh meat, mixed in some brown fur, then handed it over to the chef for preparation. I watched as the cook's trembling hands took the bag of fresh meat, staring blankly at it in the kitchen for quite some time. Sure enough, this barbecue meal turned out to be quite a failure, causing Mother to slightly furrow her brows as she ate. She immediately summoned the cook and demanded, "Why is the seasoning and timing so much worse than during breakfast?" Yet the cook hung his head in silence, gripping his apron tightly with both hands, seeming both resentful yet afraid to speak, until the butler hurried over to explain on his behalf. "Apologies, madam, please don't blame Old Lee." He frowned at Mother with a troubled expression. "As you know, madam, just this morning, one of the Tibetan mastiffs went missing from the courtyard. Old Lee has been caring for these two mastiffs daily. Now that one's disappeared, he's quite upset. "We beg your understanding, madam, is that the Tibetan Mastiff that suddenly charged at me and bit me on the day I arrived on the island." Mother calmly interrupted the butler's words. Her gaze swept gently over everyone present, yet carried an innate authoritative aura that made them all shudder involuntarily. She lightly caressed her pregnant belly, her red lips curling slightly. "A Tibetan Mastiff that suddenly goes mad like that, it's just as well that it's gone missing, lest it bite me again someday, and accidentally harm the baby in my belly. How would you explain that to Achin?" The housekeeper was left speechless. Indeed, this was the most critical moment for Mother. If anything were to happen to me, this medicinal catalyst, Ji Chen's treatment for Tan Yai, would fail. Not to mention Tibetan Mastiffs, none of these people will come to a good end. Old Li clenched his fists tighter, finally unable to contain his emotions as he stormed out with a darkened face. His mother sneered at his silhouette rapidly disappearing into the night, then turned her gaze to the butler. "With such temperament, I'm afraid he's hardly fit to be Achin's subordinate." The steward wiped sweat from his brow. "You're absolutely right, madam. I'll have a serious talk with Old Li." Mother smiled gracefully. "Achin trusts your work most of all." Late at night, the sound of chopping echoed from Mother's bedroom. The next morning, chaos erupted outside once again. Faintly, one could hear the maids whispering in terror, "Hurry, go inform the butler. Old Li never returned to his room all night, and the intercom has been busy." The remaining Tibetan Mastiff in the courtyard has also disappeared. Did Old Li escape with the Tibetan Mastiff? But all the yachts for leaving the island seem to still be here. By the way, did any of you hear that? That chopping sound last night? It came from the madam's bedroom. What? You don't mean? After a commotion, the butler brought another group of people before Mother. At that moment, Mom was alone in the kitchen making breakfast for herself. The counter was piled with more meat, some just thawed, others completely fresh, all of different varieties. Hearing the commotion, she turned slowly, tilting her head slightly in confusion. "What's wrong? Everyone's in such a flurry early in the morning." "Madam, The butler stared at Mother with horror. His eyes traveled over the apron, previously belonging to Chef Lao Li, now splattered with dark red stains. Mother hadn't yet put down the kitchen knife, its blade still dripping fresh myoglobin from the recently chopped meat. I must say, this scene was truly shocking. Everyone tacitly retreated outside the kitchen door, as if fearing the knife might land on them at any moment. The air remained still for a long while before the butler spoke again. "Madam, what brings you to the kitchen? Your due date is approaching. You should be taking care of yourself." "I'm hungry." Mom spread her hands innocently with a shrug. "We'd normally have finished breakfast by this time. What's going on today? Where's Old Li?" As she spread her hands, the myoglobin on the blade scattered with the movement, splattering some onto Maid A's pristine white work apron. Ouch! Maid A turned pale with fright, her face full of terror as she hid behind the butler. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the next second was silenced by a gesture from the butler. "Has Madam also not seen Old Li since last night?" His gaze swept over the pile of meat on the counter before settling on Mother. With stern scrutiny, the butler inquired, "Also, the Tibetan Mastiff in the courtyard's far end has gone missing. Does Madam have any clues?" "I recall that everything in this manor falls under your jurisdiction for management, doesn't it?" Mother set down the kitchen knife, casually flicking the myoglobin from her hands before turning to approach the butler. Leaning slightly closer with a soft chuckle, she enunciated each word deliberately. "Ah Chen said this estate's smart central system integrates the most advanced security and surveillance, rather than questioning a human who might lie. Why doesn't the butler consult the infallibly accurate smart system?" The butler gave a slight tremble. "You're absolutely right, madam. I'll go check the surveillance footage from the central intelligence system immediately." His eyes turned noticeably colder as he swiftly retreated to the living room without lingering. The other servants simply watched silently as Mother smiled and turned back to continue handling the fresh meat. "Since Old Li isn't here today, let me show everyone my cooking skills." As Mother's casual, warm words trailed off, frantic footsteps suddenly sounded behind her. "And no need, madam, we'll get back to work." The kitchen fell silent once more, until Mother brought the carefully prepared steak to the dining table. The butler remained seated before the smart hub, tirelessly running diagnostics, yet the results still showed no abnormalities whatsoever. He continued attempting to contact Ji Chen, only to receive the same lukewarm replies as in previous days. A faint trace of suspicion flickered in the butler's eyes, but he still seemed reluctant to suspect Mother. After all, this system was Ji Chen's proudest design, and it was through various AI products that he had built his own tech empire. earning countless glories. To question Mother, who knew nothing about programming, would be tantamount to doubting her husband's competence. Soon, I saw the butler pull out a phone. He opened it and looked, then sighed helplessly. To keep this isolated island completely shielded, Ji Chen had long ago cut off all signals outside the jurisdiction of the Central Intelligence System. To use a phone, one would need to be at least several kilometers away from the island. In the end, the butler had to spend an entire day searching for a chef while simultaneously troubleshooting the suddenly malfunctioning surveillance cameras and robots. Mom ate well and drank well, taking advantage of her lovely afternoon nap to receive another dream message from me. Mom, I heard some new intel today. I quickly shared the information about the yacht mentioned by the servants this morning, along with the butler's phone. Syncing intel with Mom, I also slipped in some plot-exclusive clues. The butler has a nautical chart of the island. If you can get your hands on it, Mom, we could take the yacht and escape this place. Once we get beyond a certain distance from the island, we'll be able to pick up outside signals and call for help. It seems we're not far from escaping successfully. An unusual glint of excitement flashed again in Mother's eyes. After waking up, she took advantage of the servants hiding and the butler adjusting the robots to make another trip to the tool room. As night fell, the manor suddenly became bustling with activity. There were the screams of servants mingled with the agonized roars of beasts from the outer perimeter. Sensing Mother getting out of bed, I followed her gaze out the window. The courtyard was swarming with security robots, now running amok as they chased the servants in every direction. The outer circle was invisible, but the chaotic sound suggested utter pandemonium. Apparently, the butler's debugging had collided with my implanted tampering program, causing the robots to spiral out of control and reset everything as indiscriminate targets for expulsion. I heard Mother chuckle softly. Then, in quite good spirits, she dragged a chair to the window and sat down to quietly enjoy the show. The courtyard bustled with activity all night long, until the roars of beasts from the outer perimeter grew fewer, and more out-of-control robots returned to the yard. Before long, they had cornered all the manor's servants inside the villa. What should we do? Butler, will these robots kill us? Hurry, Butler, contact the master and tell him to fix the system immediately. Wah, I don't want to die here. I want to go home. Let's escape on the yacht right now, just like Old Lee did. We must take Madam with us. If anything happens to her, we won't survive even if we escape. Soon, the bedroom door was knocked open. The butler and others rushed in anxiously. Madam, it's terrible. The security robots here have all gone out of control. Please pack quickly. We must leave this place immediately. How did this happen? Mother instantly concealed her smile and replaced it with a look of panicked confusion as she turned around. She allowed the servants to hurriedly gather her belongings and escort her toward the basement. Just as they estimated they were nearing the edge of the deserted island, an escape yacht came into view. Everyone, stay calm. Help the madam aboard first, then board in an orderly fashion. After swiftly entering the cockpit, the butler reassured while giving commands. Don't worry, we have plenty of time. The robots won't harm anyone. Once everyone was aboard, the yacht smoothly slid into the sea via the launch rail. As the yacht swiftly sailed away, we finally got a full view of the island's spectacle. The outer circle of beasts had been nearly exterminated by the robots. A few robots even spotted the departing yacht and waded through the water in pursuit. Panicked screams filled the air as the yacht accelerated in terror, until the island gradually became a speck of light on the horizon. The group finally breathed a slight sigh of relief. Are we saved now? I remember the island was quite far from land. Can this little yacht really make it back? I trust the butler. The servants huddled together in the cabin, whispering among themselves. Amidst the clamor and confusion, no one noticed the mother sitting quietly in the corner. Discreetly lifting the hem of her long skirt, the yacht sailed on for a while longer. When the mother arrived at the cockpit, she happened to see the steward pull out his phone with a delighted expression. Finally out of the signal blocking zone, I need to contact Sir immediately. Yet before his words could fully fade, the glass window reflected Mother's gentle smiling face. Before he could even react, a powerful anesthetic needle was brutally plunged into the back of his neck. You've been steering the ship for so long, it's time to rest, Mr. Butler. As the butler collapsed silently, Mother swiftly took his phone and dragged him into the cabin, locking the door behind her. My baby, Mommy's taking you home now. She looked incredibly excited, her hand trembling slightly as it caressed her pregnant belly. But she quickly composed herself and began navigating the yacht using the preloaded maritime charts. Mother was naturally gifted. I had only briefly explained it to her in a dream. yet she picked it up effortlessly. The shore was drawing steadily nearer. Suddenly, Mother seemed to lose strength in her legs and bent over in obvious pain. Hiss, hearing her sharp intake of breath, my heart clenched with worry. That's when I realized my entire body was already upside down, slowly descending. The warm amniotic fluid around me was gradually draining away. Mom must be going into labor. It must have been all her busyness these past few days that caused Mom to show signs of delivery 2 days before the due date. Watching Mom's face contort with labor pains, I grew somewhat anxious, yet I saw her grit her molars fiercely, then slowly ease onto the sofa after stopping the yacht. Don't be scared, baby, while soothing me by stroking her pregnant belly with one hand. Her other trembled as she picked up the housekeeper's phone. Ji Chen's communication devices were all under surveillance. Once this call was made, no matter where it was directed, Ji Chen would know. But at this moment, there wasn't a trace of fear in Mom's eyes. Ji Chen, let's see who outruns time first. She smiled weakly and decisively dialed the maritime emergency hotline. Then another phone call was made. The amniotic fluid was decreasing, and as a fetus, I gradually began to feel dizzy. I couldn't hear clearly what she was saying to the person on the other end of the line. After what felt like an eternity, hurried footsteps began echoing across the ship. I faintly saw the silhouettes of a man and a woman rushing to Mom's side before the Coast Guard and medical personnel could reach her. The next second, my vision rapidly plunged into complete darkness. Wonderful, Wei Wei, it's an adorable little girl. When I came to my senses, I found myself nestled in a soft and warm embrace. A delighted female voice sounded quite familiar. It was the voice of Shen En, Mom's closest confidant, accompanied by a deep, magnetic male voice. The mother is still weak. You should escort them back to the maternity ward first. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seems Mom and I had successfully arrived at the hospital for a safe delivery. If I remember correctly, Shen En was the daughter of the director of City A's first hospital, while her brother Shen Hang was the city's top obstetrician. So Mom's second phone call had reached the Shen siblings. Then, I heard the sound of the surgical bed being wheeled away, followed by a series of hurried footsteps approaching from afar. Young mistress, Miss Li Wei's parents have arrived and are downstairs assisting the police with their investigation. Also, that Mr. G has come, probably because he saw the police. His car stopped outside the hospital without entering. He still dares to show his face. Shen En was furious. Go find more people to drive him away. Don't let him take a single step into the hospital. After a pause, she shouted again, no, I need to call the police and have him arrested. He kidnapped Wei Wei and locked her up on a deserted island. That's illegal confinement. As her words faded, I felt myself being placed on soft bedding, followed by the sound of the young mistress rushing away in a flurry. Let me take you back to your ward. Shen Heng's voice carried a hint of helplessness. The hospital bed was pushed forward again. I felt a pair of cool fingertips gently poke my cheek. Beside my ear came Mother's weak yet overflowing murmur of joy. Baby, Mommy really did it. We survived. My nose involuntarily tingled with sourness. A loud cry pierced through the entire delivery room. During these days when I still couldn't open my eyes, I nestled close to Mom every day, listening to Shen En, Grandpa, Grandma, and others talk about the situation outside. Because of Mom's police report, the yacht steward and servants were all taken away for investigation. Before the police could even begin questioning, Maid A, who had long been terrified out of her wits, blurted out everything that had happened on the deserted island. In this world deeply reliant on intelligent systems, an AI running amok would inevitably pose an extremely high risk to society. After obtaining the nautical chart, the police immediately boarded the island and took down Ji Chen's robots. At this end, it was further discovered that not only did Ji Chen's small island harbor many protected wild animals, but there was also a frail man locked in the basement of the manor. The man was nearly insane, repeatedly shouting that robots had kidnapped him. Unfortunately, the scandal spread like wildfire and was exposed within days. Users of Ji Technology products were thrown into panic, causing Ji Technology's stock price to hit the limit down for several consecutive days. Even Ji Chen's father was taken away for investigation. Meanwhile, my grandparents used the evidence collected on the deserted island to file lawsuits against the Ji family for illegal confinement and divorce. As for Ji Chen, after being driven away by Shen En on the day I was born, he seemed to have vanished into thin air. 7 days later, my mother and I were discharged from the hospital. That same afternoon, Ji Chen appeared at the doorstep of the Li family villa looking utterly haggard. Wei Wei, I'm begging you, can we meet and talk? His gaunt yet still handsome face appeared on the video doorbell, filled with deep affection and painful pleading. My grandmother literally vomited at the sight. Bastard. Grandfather was so furious he grabbed a broom and personally led a group of the Lee family's bodyguards to give him a thorough beating. Mother held me while sitting by the third-floor window, watching the commotion below with an expressionless face. I didn't know what she was thinking at that moment, but I understood perfectly well why Ji Chen had come. Without me as the medicinal catalyst, Tanya E is about to miss her final treatment opportunity. His white moonlight is about to die. Having vented his anger, Grandpa cursed his way back into the house. Ji Chen slumped against the main gate like a ragged sack, clutching the iron bars with both hands as if grasping his last lifeline. He knew Mom was watching him. After all, we weren't hiding anything. After a while, Mom slowly stood up and carried me downstairs. Vivi, why did you come down? Seeing us, Grandpa and Grandma grew extremely anxious and immediately rushed over to stop Mom. You must never trust that bastard again, and you absolutely can't hand the baby over to him. Dad, Mom, don't worry. Mom wore a calm expression as she tightened her embrace around me, then walked confidently towards Ji Chen. Ji Chen mechanically lifted his head, and the moment he saw Mom, a glimmer of light suddenly appeared in his dull eyes. Wei Wei, he struggled to his feet, pressing against the iron gate as he desperately reached out toward me and our daughter. Wei Wei, I know, you can never forgive me. I'm not asking for anything else. Just let me see her. Let me see our daughter. Ji Chen's slender fingers stretched taut then curled helplessly, as if straining to grasp something intangible. His eyes, fixed intently on mine, overflowed with longing. Mother took half a step back gracefully, avoiding his grimy fingertips, her crimson lips curling slightly. Ji Chen, are you here to see your daughter, or to see your future with Tan Yai? Ji Chen froze abruptly. The longing in his eyes vanished instantly as he shook his head repeatedly, like an abandoned dog whimpering in grievance. Before his nonsense could leave his mouth, Mother scoffed and pulled out her phone. Not long after, a struggling man was dragged by the Lee family's bodyguards and shoved beside Ji Chen. It was the doctor who regularly visited the island to conduct Mother's checkups. Sir, something terrible has happened. Sir, seeing Ji Chen, he instantly twisted free from the bodyguard and stumbled forward to support him, yet his face was full of panic. Sir, Miss Tan, she's not going to make it. What did you say? Hearing this, Ji Chen straightened up abruptly, grabbing the man's collar with a swift motion. His eyes burned with urgency as he glared fiercely. Didn't you say Yi could hold on for 3 more days? The doctor looked at me cradled in my mother's arms and hesitated for a moment, unable to find the right words. Seeing this scene, Ji Chen's gaze inevitably returned to us mother and daughter. Wei Wei, I'm begging you. I'll get on my knees and beg you. The once tall and proud favored son of heaven fell to his knees with a thud, reaching for the hem of Mother's long skirt. He seemed desperate to squeeze himself through the door crack, his eyes bloodshot from widening them so much. Wei Wei, we can have another child. We'll definitely have another, but he only has this one life. Please have mercy. Let me save Yi, won't you? I swear, if only she can be saved. I promise to cut all ties with her forever. I'll give you everything, even my life. Just save Yi. As the words fell, that hand was swiftly stomped on by Mother and ground into the gravel at the entrance. Crimson blood soaked every pebble amidst Ji Chen's agonized screams, like roses blooming amidst thorns. Does Mr. Ji not know yet? Your life has long been worthless, Mother laughed with utter abandon. While having someone bring her a chair to rest, she took the pad from a bodyguard and flipped through its pages one by one to show Ji Chen. Because your self-developed AI poses a risk of going rogue, G Corporation had no choice but to recall all products and pay compensation to every user. The recent public opinion has already left G Corporation's stock price teetering on the edge. Surely you're not unaware of how much your own net worth has shrunk. And you couldn't possibly be unaware that your secret slush fund, the one you hid from me, has been frozen, causing supply shortages at the specialized care center where Tan Yai resides, which led to her critical condition arriving ahead of schedule. As these words fell, all color drained from Ji Chen's face. It took me a long moment to react, unable to suppress myself any longer, tearing off the disguise of heartfelt apology. It's you, Li Wei, how cruel you are. You actually went around me to harm me. Well, that's quite an accusation. I won't take the blame for this. Mother frowned and shook her head. Her eyes brimmed with undisguised schadenfreude. Your card, your parents froze it themselves to show me, just so I'd go easy on pressing charges against you. You, Ji Chen's face cycled through shades of green and red under his mother's verbal assault. Then with a sudden, wah, he vomited a mouthful of bright blood, simultaneously. The wail of police sirens grew louder from the distance. Mother calmly withdrew her foot. I'm going to rest now. As police cars pulled up one after another, Mother calmly stood up, carrying me back inside. See you in court, Mr. G. 1 month later, the trial officially began. Mother stood poised in her crisp outfit, holding me firmly at the plaintiff's stand, radiating confidence. The stark contrast with the gaunt, withered man opposite couldn't have been more pronounced. This was a trial broadcast live to the public. As Ji Chen's crimes were listed one by one, not only did the presiding judges freeze in shock, even the internet spectators who'd flocked for drama found themselves utterly dumbstruck. What era are we living in that someone could absurdly believe a fetus could be used as medicinal ingredient? No wonder those melodramatic tragic novels get increasingly outrageous. Art truly imitates life. That scumbag even went so far as to imprison his own wife for this. How is this any different from kidnapping and murder? After expressing their emotions, the curiosity of the melaneating crowd was thoroughly piqued. Everyone wanted to see what kind of existence that white moonlight was, capable of dragging Ji Chen into violating most of the criminal code. However, after Ji Chen was sentenced in court, Shen Heng arrived at the courthouse carrying a folder. Tan Yai passed away an hour ago. With a calm demeanor, he handed the folder to Ji Chen's mother. It's a shame I protected her for a month, yet she still didn't get to wait. Mother handed me over to Shen Heng's arms, casually flipping open the folder and pulling out the bone marrow matching report inside. Looking at the worthless papers in her hand, Mother chuckled softly. Something that could have been solved with just matching bone marrow. Perhaps this is fate. Mother arranged for someone to relay the news of Tanya Yi's passing to Ji Chen, who was already incarcerated. Soon, word came from the prison that he had suffered a mental breakdown and was seizing every opportunity to throw himself against the walls in suicide attempts. Still too naive, he had no idea that the Li family had long since arranged everything. No matter how many times he attempted suicide, special care would be taken to keep him alive. Nor did he know that this provoked jealousy among some inmates, who would occasionally show him special attention. Physical pain was nothing. Sometimes, when I grew bored, I'd send him amusing dreams to entertain myself, like making him be chased in his dreams by the savage beasts and robots he himself raised, or making him dream of Tan Yai coming back to life, flaunting her love with a handsome guy right in front of him. But before he could enjoy it for long, he ended up going insane first. How boring. After some time, all the belongings sent back from the Ji family nearly filled her entire bedroom. I was placed in the crib, watching silently as she locked the door and stared blankly at the assortment of boxes before her for quite a while. Then, she pulled out a seemingly aged sketchbook from among them. The story had mentioned this sketchbook before. Every page inside was filled with portraits of Ji Chen, from childhood to graduation, from school uniforms to business suits, from the first flutter of love to finally having her wish fulfilled. Li Wei poured all her emotions onto these canvases. Yet the paper had long since yellowed and deteriorated, crumbling into dust at the slightest touch. Mother didn't open the sketchbook again, simply tossing it into the trash bin without a second thought. Then she took out a brand new sketchbook from the drawer and came to my crib. Her gaze was as soft and gentle as her brushstrokes, overflowing with doting affection. Soon, Mother had drawn me as I appeared in her dream at 3 years old, even though I'd stopped sending her dreams. Shen En, after hearing her story, explained my dream visits as her own psychological projections. She still remembered clearly how temporary it had looked. I grinned at her. The next moment, gentle arms lifted me up and embraced me. Thank you, my little star. Lixing, the name my mother gave me. It means the morning star at dawn, illuminating and guiding the way forward. When I learn to speak, I'll be sure to tell her. I absolutely love it. Extra story. 5 years later, at City A's Convention Center, Li Wei held her final art exhibition. From this day forward, she would no longer focus on painting as her primary career, shifting her professional focus to the impending succession of the Li family group. The concluding exhibition was titled Morning Star. It featured dazzling galactic paintings alongside glimpses into the upbringing of Li Xing, the youngest heiress of the Li family, and the cured smiles of patients from the Care for Rare Diseases Foundation she established in recent years. All proceeds from the exhibition ticket sales would be fully donated to several girls' education projects in mountainous areas that she sponsors. The exhibition was thus packed with crowds, leaving Li Wei almost overwhelmed as she urgently summoned Shen and Lei to help look after her precious little princess. You sure know how to put people to work. Shen En held the little girl who was looking around curiously and didn't hesitate to roll her eyes at Li Wei. Then she leaned closer to her ear, wearing a gossipy expression. You know, my brother seems to be pursuing you more frequently and actively these past few years. Are you waiting to see his true colors over time, or are you just not interested in him at all? Hearing this, Li Wei's hands paused slightly as she smiled faintly. My career has just begun, and I don't have the mind for that right now. I've turned him down many times too, but your brother seems to let it go in one ear and out the other. There's nothing I can do about it. That's true, he's always been like that. Shen En nodded solemnly. Only when everything at the exhibition could operate on its own did Li Wei finally allow herself a slight sigh of relief. Just as she was about to sit down and rest for a while, she was pulled up again by the duo. One big and one small. Mommy, Aunt Enan said there are robots dancing in the next hall. Xingxing wants to go see. Come on, Wei Wei, let's go check out other people's exhibitions too. Art is all about mutual exchange, isn't it? Calling you here seems to have been a mistake. Li Wei wore a helpless expression but still allowed her best friend and beloved daughter to pull her toward the neighboring exhibition hall. Next door was hosting a next-generation high-tech exhibition, showcasing milestone works from numerous leading scientists in recent years, all of them women of national prominence. As they wandered through, Li Wei suddenly came to a halt before a black and white portrait. The photo frame held a dignified and heroic-looking middle-aged woman. She was certain she didn't know this person, yet the face gave her an uncanny sense of familiarity. Aha, the famous red team hacker from the national team, Song Wanqing, noticing Li Wei's apparent interest. Shen En enthusiastically began explaining from the side. This lady was quite extraordinary. The Golden Bell defense system she developed is absolutely top tier in the field of data protection. What a shame such talent was lost so young. I heard she died in a car accident 5 or 6 years ago, and because of her highly classified status as a red hacker, her identity and achievements couldn't be revealed until after her death. Such a pity. I've met her. Li Wei suddenly interrupted Shen En's incessant chatter. She widened her eyes slightly and took a few more steps toward the portrait, her voice trembling lightly. 6 years ago, on the night of our bachelor party, I met her on my way home. She was quite seriously injured at the time, so I took her to the hospital. But the next day, the nurse told me she left before her injuries had fully healed. Wow! Shen En looked utterly astonished after hearing this. I never knew you had such heroic deeds in your past. But it's true, rumors say that Evening Star's Golden Bell system was so impenetrable it offended countless people, so some suspect her car accident was actually a meticulously planned murder. It's truly a pity. Li Wei sighed and nodded regretfully. A little further ahead were displayed the works created during MS Song's lifetime, apart from the highly classified Golden Bell. Some educational robots she designed specifically for children were generously exhibited, complete with their source codes. The moment she saw the code, Li Wei's breath caught, freezing her once again in place, until the hem of her skirt was gently tugged. Mommy, why do you keep spacing out? Her precious daughter Li Xing clung softly to her calf, looking up at her with innocent confusion. After what felt like an eternity, Li Wei finally snapped out of her daze, a relieved smile blooming at the corners of her lips before she bent down to scoop up the little girl. Sweetheart, how about Mommy and Auntie NN take you out for barbecue later? Yay yay. Li Xing happily nuzzled into her embrace, her sparkling dark eyes fleetingly flashing with an almost imperceptible glimmer. Oops, it seems she has a little secret, and Mom found out. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I transmigrated into an abusive romance novel and was currently borrowing money from the domineering CEO. He wrapped his arm around his beloved white moonlight, his expression indifferent. Take off one piece of clothing, 10,000 yuan. Excited, I took off both my socks and threw them at him. Then let's start with 20,000. I transmigrated into an abusive romance novel, becoming the female lead who had been married to the domineering CEO for 3 years, in name only. In the story, I was hopelessly infatuated with the CEO Gu Xinian, but due to the interference of his white moonlight Lin Yuru, Gu Xinian harbored deep misunderstandings about me. He used every means to humiliate me, and I gritted my teeth and endured it all. I didn't read the latter half of the story and didn't know how it ended. Because the first few hundred chapters were just endless abuse of the female lead, it was simply unbearable to continue. According to the plot, today I'm supposed to borrow 100,000 yuan from Gu Xinian, only to be thoroughly humiliated by him and his white moonlight. I don't want to go, but then a mechanical voice rings in my head, "Host, you must follow the plot, or you'll face forced punishment." I'm startled. It seems I've been bound to some system, though I don't know what the punishment entails. It sounds terrifying. I had no choice but to take a taxi to find Gu Xinian. I arrived at an upscale private club where Gu Xinian was partying with friends. Summoning my courage, I stepped into the private room, and the lively clamor inside instantly fell silent. Gu Xinian sat on a leather sofa, a cigar dangling from his lips, his stern face half hidden behind swirls of smoke. When he saw me enter, his brows furrowed as he shot me a look of disgust. "This isn't a place for you, get out." I didn't even want to come. I rolled my eyes and stretched my hand toward Gu Xinian. "Gu Xinian, give me 100 grand and I'll leave right now." Gu Xinian froze momentarily before he could speak, while his beloved Bai Yueguang Lin Euro sneered beside him. "What's wrong? Can't even come up with 100,000 now? Former Yan family heiress. How shameless to beg others for money. Isn't that pathetic?" Gu Xinian held a cigarette between his fingers, its red ember flickering intermittently. He gazed at me coldly and suddenly spoke. "Want money? Sure. Take off one piece of clothing, get 10,000. Loud whistles immediately erupted around us. I looked around in surprise. There were at least a dozen people in the private room, all men except for Lin Yuru. TSK, cuckold fantasy. Gu Xinian plays pretty wild. I tossed my hair and gave him a flirtatious glance. "All right then. No cheating." With that, she swiftly kicked off her sneakers, peeled off both socks, and flung them straight at Gu Xinian's face. "Let's start with 20 grand. One sock landed in Lin Yuru's wine glass, while the other draped over Gu Xinian's shoulder. He stared at me in shock, his cigar dropping to the ground. It was already autumn in October. I wore simple jeans and a white shirt, with a trench coat over them. When I took off both the trench coat and shirt, leaving only an undershirt, I sensed something was wrong. Counting underwear and 2 socks, I only had 8 pieces of clothing on me. I glared at Gu Xinian with grief and indignation. "Even if I strip naked, I'm only worth 80,000. How am I supposed to come up with the remaining 20? Should I pluck my hairs out?" Pfft. Gu Xinian's friend beside him choked on his drink, desperately holding back laughter while Gu Xinian's face turned ashen. Lin Yuru also covered her mouth, giggling. "Oh my god, Yen Yen. You've really lost all sense of shame now." She set the wine glass on the coffee table and picked up a plate of walnuts from the side. "Here's the deal. You shell this plate of walnuts, and I'll cover the 100 grand. No tools allowed." My eyes flicked to the plate in her hands. Mountain walnuts, unopened, notoriously hard to crack. I remembered this scene, where the female lead shells them until her hands bleed, moving everyone to tears. The author's train of thought is truly bizarre. I walked over, plopped myself down right next to Lin Yuru, grabbed a walnut, and popped it straight into my mouth. Crack, a crisp sound echoed as the mountain walnut shattered in my palm. I picked out a few of the more intact pieces and shoved them into Lin Yuru's hand. "Eat up." I swiftly cracked open 4 or 5 walnuts with my teeth. Lin Yuru stared blankly at the saliva-covered walnut meat in her hand, her expression gradually contorting. "Are you out of your mind?" Lin Yuru waved her hand abruptly, knocking over the wine glass beside her. The crimson liquid spilled across the table, dripping onto her shoes. She frantically wiped her palm with tissues, glanced down at her stained shoes, and nearly exploded with rage. "Yen Yen, did you do this on purpose? Xinian, look at him. He ruined my shoes." Gu Xinian finally snapped out of it, giving me an expressionless glance that felt like it was laced with ice. "Lick her shoes clean, and I'll give you the money." This demand was downright perverse. I wanted out. I was just about to stand up when the system suddenly warned, "Host, if you deviate from the plot, you will face forced punishment." I had no choice but to crouch beside Lin Yuru's feet. She sat with her legs crossed, the black velvet surface of her high heels right before my eyes. I simply couldn't bring myself to do it, cursing the system in my mind. Damn it, what forced punishment. Bring it on. The next second, a powerful electric current surged through my body. I arched my back and instinctively let out a piercing scream. so the forced punishment was electric shock. It hurt so badly I'd rather eat shit than endure it again. What's licking shoes compared to this? My scream had been too agonizing. Everyone was staring at me in shock, especially Gu Xinian, whose brows were tightly furrowed. What are you screaming for? My eyes darted as I reached out to grab Lin Yuro's foot, forcing an explanation. So smelly, I'm so excited. The crowd fell silent. Lin Yuro shrieked and pulled her foot back. You pervert. Gu Xinian couldn't bear to watch any longer and pulled out a bank card from his pocket, tossing it onto the ground. Get lost. Stop embarrassing yourself here. I picked up the bank card and breathed a sigh of relief. System, it's not that I didn't want to lick shoes. Lin Yuro wouldn't let me. This doesn't count as going against the plot, right? The system fell silent, and only after a long pause did it mechanically reply, decisions made by characters in the book don't count as you violating the main storyline, so that's how it is. That gives me a lot more room to maneuver. I sighed in relief, picked up my clothes, slipped into my sneakers barefoot, and walked out of the club's entrance. Outside, the rain poured down in sheets. I tightened my trench coat around me as the phone in my pocket rang incessantly. Hey, Yen Yen. Did you get the money? Your father's still waiting for surgery. The speaker was my mother, once the glamorous wife of the Yen Group's chairman, now squeezed into a tiny rental apartment with my father. After the Yen Group went bankrupt, my father had a heart attack and was hospitalized. All our family assets were frozen, leaving me with no choice but to ask Gu Xinian for help, braving the rain. I found an ATM and transferred the money to my mother. She called me discontentedly. Only 100,000. Your father's surgery requires at least 500,000. What about the rest? I sighed helplessly. Fine, I'll figure something out. I returned to the Gu family villa. Gu Xinian and I had always slept in separate rooms. He occupied the third floor of the vast villa, while I stayed on the second. While the servants weren't looking, I sneaked into Gu Xinian's room and rummaged through his cabinet, pulling out several watches, rings, and bracelets. Just pawning this pile could easily fetch several million. I really don't understand why the female lead had to go through the trouble of borrowing money. I stuffed the items into my arms, and the system protested unhappily. Host, how could you steal? I glared. What happens between husband and wife can't be called stealing. Don't you know the law? This is marital property. Half of it is mine by right. The system was speechless. No, put those things down. Yen Yen is a very proud person. She needs to work part-time to earn money, and she's supposed to meet the male supporting character while working. If you mess around like this, the whole plot will be ruined. I'll just take one watch. I'll still go work my shifts. It won't affect the main storyline. Release it immediately, or face forced punishment. I was arguing with the system when sudden footsteps echoed outside the door. Startled, I clutched the pile of watches to my chest, glanced around frantically, then dropped to my knees and scrambled under the bed. No sooner had I hidden myself than Gu Xinian entered with Lin Yuru in his arms. Lin Yuru's high heels tapped out a crisp staccato rhythm on the floor as she deliberately made a scene, shouting at the top of her lungs, Nianji, carry me. Having been caught in the rain outside earlier, a damp lock of hair brushed against the tip of my nose. Before I could stop myself, I let out a thunderous sneeze. Achoo! The next second, Gu Xinian's icy voice laced with anger rang out. Who's there? Get out! I lay on the ground playing dead. I'll count to 3, 1. The system was also urging me. Host, don't do anything reckless. Hurry up and go apologize to Gu Xinian, or I'll enforce punishment. I had no choice but to hide the watch and crawl out from under the bed reluctantly. Lin Yuro was both shocked and furious. Yen Yen, you shameless bitch. Hiding here trying to seduce Xinian Gidge. Gu Xinian's murderous gaze locked onto me, and I had a sudden inspiration. Don't misunderstand. I'm not here to break you up. I'm here to join you. Gu Xinian and Lin Yuru froze in place. I forced a dry laugh and walked over to put my arm around Lin Yuru's shoulder. Didn't you keep complaining every day that you couldn't take it anymore? Don't worry, we're colleagues. I'll help share the burden. Lin Yuru didn't react immediately. Who said we're colleagues? Oh, come on, we're both Gu Xinian's women. What else would we be? Don't worry, I'm very team-oriented and would never let you. Get out. Gu Xinian finally couldn't take it anymore, his face darkening as he pointed a trembling finger toward the door. I shrugged and walked away. Next time then. We'll have another chance for teamwork. Unexpectedly, someone grabbed my arm. Gu Xinian was glaring coldly at Lin Yuro. Get out. Lin Yuro's eyes instantly reddened, biting her lip but not daring to disobey Gu Xinyan's order. She could only shoot me a fierce glare before running off in tears. Shameless slut. Gu Xinyan slammed the door shut and pinned me roughly against it, his dark eyes raging like a storm. Yen Yen, you'd do anything for money. Are you really that cheap? As he spoke, he lowered his head to bite my collarbone with punishing force, making me dig my nails into the wall in pain. It suddenly occurred to me that in the book, Gu Xinian was always like this. After humiliating Yen Yen outside, he'd come back to take it out on her. I couldn't fathom what his problem was. Gu Xinian kissed my neck, his breathing growing heavier. Disgusted, I raised my knee, ready to strike where it hurts most. But the system beat me to it. Mandatory punishment. I immediately lowered my leg. Fine. It wasn't that big a deal anyway. Gu Xinian kissed his way up my neck until he reached my lips. After a moment, he pulled back slightly, looking at me with a conflicted expression. Gu Xinian ran his tongue along his back teeth in a slow circle, then extended it slightly, revealing a few tiny black particles. He pinched the particles between his fingertips. Squinting as he examined them, I let out a sigh of relief. Damn. This hickory shell's been stuck in my teeth forever. I couldn't even pry it out with my nails. Your mouth's more powerful than a suction cup. There's still a bit stuck here. Help me out again. I opened my mouth wide and leaned toward Gu Xinian, but he immediately turned his head away and shoved me hard. Get out, system. He's the one telling me to get lost, so it's fine if I leave now, right? The system replied. It's fine. After that night, Gu Xinian ignored me for several days straight. I was perfectly happy with the peace and quiet, focusing all my energy on figuring out ways to make money. Pointing excitedly at an ancient-looking podocarpus tree outside the door, I said, "Look, this podocarpus is over 200 years old. Gu Xinian spent 3 million buying it. What if I have someone sell it and replace it with a cheaper tree? We could pocket the difference." The system rejected me without hesitation, and I was furious. Can a single tree really affect the main storyline? Host, stop messing around with these nonsense ideas. You're running out of time. Go work already. I keenly sensed something was off. What did it mean by running out of time? After pestering relentlessly, the system finally told me the truth. The female lead will die in 3 months, and Gu Xinian will spend the rest of his life in regret. I stuffed you in here, cough, which is against the rules. So we can't let the higher-ups find out. Your task is to keep the female lead alive without altering the main storyline. I was dumbfounded. What do you mean? How can she survive without changing the plot? 1 year after your death, Gu Xinian searched for you frantically. It wasn't until 3 years later that he finally gave up. That's where the original story ends. So, as long as you survive those 3 years, whatever happens afterward won't be monitored by the higher-ups, the system grumbled indignantly. I hate these tragic novels the most. So-called tragedy just means bullying the female lead relentlessly, subjecting her to endless humiliation only for her to die in the end. The only revenge against the male lead is making him regret it. Regret my ass, host. You've already died in the real world. This is your only chance to survive. Cherish it properly. The system pleaded earnestly, and I fell silent. So making money wasn't important at all. The priority was following the plot, finding loopholes, and figuring out how to stay alive. The next day, I went to Yanhua Real Estate Company to submit my resume. The onboarding process went smoothly, but unexpectedly, the moment I stepped into the office, I was stunned. Lin Euro sat behind her spacious desk, casually flipping through my documents. 8,000 a month. Yen, with your overseas master's degree, isn't this beneath you? Tell you what, become my personal assistant, and I'll pay you 20,000 monthly. Indeed, Lin Euro was the heiress of Yanhua Real Estate. By sheer coincidence, I'd stumbled into her family's company, where I would later endure no small amount of humiliation at her hands. At this thought, I took a deep breath and flashed Lin Euro a radiant smile. Got it, boss. During the afternoon meeting, Lin Euro started causing trouble again. I poured the tea, and Lin Euro picked up the cup, took a sip, then frowned in distaste. Yen, are you trying to scald me to death? As she spoke, she raised her water glass, ready to splash me. At the critical moment, I suddenly leaned forward, took a big sip from her cup, and clamped my teeth onto the rim. Boss, it's not hot at all. The temperature is just right. Lin Euro speechless. Lin Euro was furious. She grabbed her colleague's cup nearby and flung its contents at me with force. Bitch, always making excuses when I ask you to do something. At that moment, the conference room doors swung open, and a commanding figure strode in against the light. I slumped to the ground, my bangs soaked and clinging to my forehead, biting my lower lip. I turned toward that person's direction and let out a soft moan. So cold. The visitor was the president of Yanhua Real Estate, Lin Yuro's elder brother, and the male supporting character of this book. Lin Zian, my delicate beauty was adorned with droplets of water, like white hibiscus blossoms glistening with dew on March branches. Embodying the phrase, pitifully charming, to perfection, at that moment, I was no longer Yan Yan, I became Kai Shubin, Yan Yan. Sure enough, Lin Zian's pupils instantly contracted as he reached out to help me up. Are you alright? I blinked at him with teary-eyed innocence. President, I'm fine, Lin Yuro protested angrily. Brother, this bitch, enough, let her leave first. We'll discuss this after the meeting. The meeting lasted a long time, stretching into the evening, until Lin Zian finally left the conference room and paused briefly in front of me. Xiao Ro has quite the temper. I'll find an opportunity to transfer you here as my assistant. Sure enough, love-struck tendencies are hereditary. That night, Lin Yuro took me to a dinner gathering. A greasy middle-aged man with a fat face sat across from me. Lin Yuro glanced at me and chuckled lightly. President Wang, this is my assistant Yan Yan. Tonight's proposal. You should discuss it thoroughly with her. Yan Yan will definitely satisfy you. She has extensive experience dealing with important clients. Every word carried an implicit suggestion, and President Wang's eyes immediately lit up. He leered at me from head to toe before offering me a drink. Xiao Yan. The contract details can be easily worked out. Throughout the dinner, his gaze never left me. Towards the end, Director Wang theatrically held his head. Age is catching up with me. Can't handle alcohol like before. Say, I've left the contract in my room. Xiao Yan, why don't you come up with me to get it? I stood frozen as Lin Yuro seized the opportunity to pull me aside. Don't worry, this guy just likes to cop cheap feels. He won't actually do anything to you. Tell you what. If you go upstairs with him, I'll cover the remaining costs for your father's surgery. How's that? This deal is crucial for the company. In the novel, the female protagonist had naively trusted Lin Yuro's words. Once upstairs, Lin Yuro would personally bring Gu Xinian to catch them in the act, creating the biggest misunderstanding and rift between them. Host, this is a crucial plot point. You must go up with him. Fine, but pay me first. I took out my bank card from the bag and handed it to Lin Yuro. Transfer the money to this account, and I'll go as soon as I receive it. Lin Yuro sneered. Yan Yan, I've underestimated you. For money, you'd really do anything. After receiving the bank notification, I held on to Director Wang's arm and guided him toward the elevator. Let's go, Director Wang. He pressed half his body against me, his breath reeking of alcohol. Xiao Yan, ha ha ha. I smiled back at him. Ha ha ha. Upon entering the room, Director Wang couldn't wait to strip off his shirt, then rubbed his hands together while looking at me. Take your clothes off yourself. I nodded. All right, goodbye. With that, I turned and walked away, making the system panic. Mandatory punishment warning. Mandatory punishment warning. Just as my hand was about to grasp the door handle, a powerful electric current surged through my body. Director Wang happened to lunge forward to embrace me, and I mustered every ounce of strength to clutch his hand in return. Then we became like two grasshoppers tied to the same string, currents crackling through our bodies as we convulsed and collapsed to the floor. Didn't see that coming, did you? The human body conducts electricity. That was my plan all along. Lying on the ground recovering for quite some time, President Wang stared blankly at the ceiling, questioning his life choices. I turned my head to look at him. Hee, baby, here I come. Propping myself up, I crawled toward him, dark, sinister, and twisted, as President Wang screamed and scrambled backward on all fours. Stay away from me, don't come any closer. At that moment, hurried footsteps echoed from outside the door, accompanied by Lin Yuru's sobbing. I'm sorry, Xinian Gidge. It's my fault for not watching her properly. I warned her. That Mr. Wang is no good. Who knew she'd sneak upstairs alone after we left the hotel, all for some commission. Thud. The door burst open just as I was lying next to President Wang. President Wang was shirtless. My clothes were disheveled, both of us panting heavily with messy hair. Gu Xinian's eyes instantly reddened at the corners. He strode over, grabbed me violently, and slapped me twice across the face. Bitch. Gu Xinian switched to choking my neck, his voice hoarse. Yan Yan, how could you be so shameless? Lin Yuro frowned, glancing at Boss Wang lying on the floor nearby. President Wang. Yan Yan is a married woman. How could you do this? According to the original plot, President Wang would desperately try to justify himself, claiming I seduced him, creating an even deeper misunderstanding between me and Gu Xinian. Now President Wang was clearly electrocuted into stupor, shaking his head frantically as he began explaining, "No, I didn't. That's nonsense. Nothing happened between us at all." Lin Yuro froze, her eyes widening in shock. "Do you take us for fools, if nothing happened? Why did you take your clothes off?" Boss Wang grew frantic. "It was just too hot in the room. That's why I took my clothes off. It has nothing to do with her. I only brought her here to sign a contract. We really didn't do anything." "Miss Yen, hurry up and explain it to them." Gu Xinian grabbed me by the collar, and I turned my head away resentfully, refusing to look at him. "Forget it, let him think whatever he wants." Boss Wang looked like he was about to cry, glaring fiercely at Lin Yuro. "I don't care what nonsense you're up to, but don't you dare pair her up with me, President Gu. I've always been an upright person. You can't smear me with such baseless accusations." President Wang looked anxious, treating me as if I were something to be avoided at all costs. Gu Xinian froze momentarily before his tightly furrowed brows gradually relaxed, seizing the opportunity. President Wang swiftly signed the contract and shoved it into my hands. "Miss Yen, I'm someone who values my reputation. To avoid any appearance of impropriety, please have your company assign someone else to liaise with me from now on. I truly don't wish to see you again." I asked the system in my mind. He was the one who insisted on explaining everything clearly, so it doesn't count as me changing the plot, right? The system replied, I guess not." After leaving the hotel, Lin Yuro looked utterly confused. Gu Xinian paid her no mind and roughly shoved me into the car. "Shameless trash, get your ass back home." The car door slammed shut as Gu Xinian reached out to grip my chin, his dark eyes stormy. Yen, would you really do anyone for money?" I remained silent. As Gu Xinian leaned in closer, the alcohol surged up my throat. I let out a thunderous belch, spraying his face with the rancid stench of liquor and half-digested food. Gu Xinian speechless, though I couldn't resist Gu Xinian. I could always find my own ways to disgust him and make him abandon any thought of touching me. Unexpectedly, Gu Xinian seemed like a completely different person tonight. No matter how much I burped or blew air in his face, he simply ignored it. Back home, he dragged me into the bathroom, forcefully made me gargle mouthwash, threw me into the bathtub, turned on the shower, and drenched me with cold water. My crumpled coat lay discarded on the floor, while my white shirt clung transparently to my skin when soaked, revealing glimpses of snow-white flesh beneath. Gu Xinian's eyes darkened as he gripped my throat and leaned in closer. His kiss was icy and domineering, carrying a bone-chilling coldness. I distinctly sensed something unusual stirring elsewhere. I was horrified. "Spare the chicken." Gu Xinian was speechless. I pressed down on Gu Xinian's hand as he undid my buttons. "Gu Xinian, do you love me?" Gu Xinian froze, his pupils dilating slightly with a turmoil in his gaze that even he himself failed to recognize. "Haha, love, Yen, you're just a stand-in, a dog I bought with money. How dare you talk to me about love?" I let out a scornful laugh. "If you do this to dogs, then your tastes are quite heavy." Gu Xinian. "Lin Yuru is right there. What's the point of tormenting me, her stand-in? Day after day, do you even believe your own words?" I bite his ear. "Gu Xinian, the day you lose me, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Gu Xinian recoiled violently as if scalded, stumbling backward before shoving me away in disarray. Yen, you're really overestimating your importance." Gu Xinian stormed off angrily. I lay in the bathtub, filling it with hot water, and let out a long sigh of relief. After that day, as if to prove he didn't care about me at all, Gu Xinian treated me even worse, while doubling his attentiveness towards Lin Yuro instead. Lin Yuro was utterly smug about it and summoned me into her office. Yen, arrange these flowers." A massive bouquet of 99 red roses, sent over first thing in the morning by Gu Xinian. Lin Yurong gazed at the blooms with delight while sneering at me. "A counterfeit will always be counterfeit, no matter what tricks you've used. Brother Xinian's heart belongs to me." Just as my fingers brushed against the roses, she suddenly grabbed the nearby ashtray and hurled it violently at my head. I had anticipated this and instinctively grabbed a stack of documents from the desk to block. The papers were sent flying, scattering chaotically across the floor as Lin Xian pushed the door open and walked in. Pretending not to notice, I crouched down pitifully to gather the scattered documents. "The president's proposal is already flawless, Vice President Lin. You're being too nitpicky." You can't just trample all over someone's hard work like this. Lin Yuro was absolutely livid. You're talking nonsense, you bitch. Stop pretending. She rushed over to hit me, but Lin Zian shielded me behind him. He glanced down at the documents on the floor. The very proposal he had just signed that morning. Lin Zian frowned. If you're so dissatisfied with her, then let her come work with me, brother. Lin Yuru stamped her foot, then suddenly changed her tune. Fine, take her away. I don't want to see her for another second. Lin Zian had always been known as a playboy, changing girlfriends every month. Seeing his interest in me now, Lin Yuru was practically eager for us to get together, just so she could go tattle to Gu Xinian. That afternoon, I carried my materials and moved into Lin Zian's office. The system said, "Host, I must warn you, you've been dancing dangerously close to the edge lately." I protested, "Shut up. The plot only required me to enter Lin Zian's office. Why must I take that hit for nothing?" The system said, "Taking that hit makes you appear pitiful and vulnerable, triggering Lin Zian's protective instincts to increase his favorability toward you." The system glanced at Lin Zian's favorability meter above his head and promptly shut its mouth. Lin Zian's office had a display cabinet containing several trophies, alongside which sat a photograph. In the picture, Lin Zian wore nothing but swim trunks, revealing his perfectly sculpted 8-pack abs as he held a trophy aloft, waving to the crowd. My heart skipped a beat. Perfect. Lin Zian seemed to be an excellent swimmer. 3 months later, Lin Yuro will have someone push me off the cliff into the sea. I must learn how to swim within these 3 months to have a slim chance of survival. I gasped and covered my mouth. Oh my God, President, you're so amazing. I absolutely love this and have always wanted to learn. Could you teach me? Lin Zian was taken by surprise. Do you really want to learn? Few girls are interested in this. I nodded eagerly, looking at him with admiration. I really want to learn. Please, you have to teach me. Lin Zian's eyes sparkled as he patted my back approvingly. Yen, among all the girls I know, you're the only one interested in diving. Don't worry. I'll make sure to teach you well. Wait, diving. I must have water in my brain to want to learn diving. I wanted to cry but had no tears, desperately calling out to the system in my mind, electrocute me, punish me. I don't want to learn diving. The system took malicious pleasure in my plight. Lin Zian's favorability toward you keeps rising. The book only briefly mentioned your interactions anyway. As long as you accumulate enough favorability points, it doesn't violate the main storyline. Lin Zian was decisive by nature. Right after work, he immediately took me to the mall to buy professional equipment, then brought me to his private swimming pool. Before attempting diving, I had to learn swimming first. Lin Zian taught me with utmost seriousness, leaving me no choice but to grit my teeth and endure it. Forget it, I'm broke anyway. Since there's a free chance to learn swimming now, I'll just find excuses to skip diving later. Every day I'm busy rushing about, working during the day, learning swimming at night. When I get home with damp hair and changed clothes, Gu Xinian immediately picks up on something being off. On this particular day when I returned home with half-dried long hair, Gu Xinian stopped me. He sat on the living room sofa in the dark, cigar in hand, only the faint glow of its ember visible. What have you been up to lately? I didn't want to engage too much with him, so I made up a random excuse, learning new skills. Gu Xinian's temple twitched as he stubbed out his cigar in the ashtray. What kind of talent? I started talking nonsense. Synchronized swimming. Since you love bathtubs so much, I thought I'd perform a routine for you in one next time. Gu Xinian suddenly flew into a rage. With a sweep of his arm, crash, everything on the coffee table went flying to the floor. He pulled a stack of photos from his pocket and threw them onto the table, grinding his teeth as he spat out. Going to learn from Lin Zian. Is that it? The lights flickered on as Gu Xinian strode over, grabbing my hair with one hand and dragging me to the sofa before throwing me violently onto the floor. I collapsed onto the ground, strands of hair falling across my forehead, whimpering softly. It hurts. After crying out, I realized it was Gu Xinian before me, not Lin Zian, and could only sulkily clamp my mouth shut before leaning forward to examine the photos on the coffee table. Sure enough, the photos all captured moments of Lin Zian and me together these past few days. Clearly the handiwork of Lin Yuru. Yen, you're absolutely disgusting. Gu Xinian looked at me with cold disdain, and I rolled my eyes. What the hell do you want day after day? If you dislike me so much, why don't we just get divorced? Divorce, over my dead body. Gu Xinian stood up and walked toward me with a dark expression. I scrambled up from the floor and immediately bolted, Sinian froze for a second before chasing after me. The two of us ended up circling the sofa like the Emperor of Qin dodging around pillars. The more I ran, the more exhilarated I felt. Turns out those swimming lessons weren't wasted. My lung capacity had improved significantly. My face wasn't flushed, and I wasn't even out of breath after a few laps. Sinian probably felt embarrassed by this childish pursuit. He stopped abruptly, his face turning ashen. Yen, come here. I stood rooted to the spot. According to the plot, Lin Zian had ignited Sinian's intense jealousy. He would beat me up, then do all sorts of things, and later confine me at home, forbidding me from going out. I didn't want to follow this script. I raised both hands. Sinian, let's talk this out properly. You don't hit me, and I won't run away, deal? Sinian remained expressionless as I pleaded earnestly. If you dare hit me, I'll follow Ma Rong's example. Take photos claiming domestic abuse and post them on WeChat Moments and Weibo. Your company's stocks would plummet, costing you tens of millions at least. Not worth it over something this trivial. While I was still rambling on, Sinian suddenly braced one hand on the sofa, effortlessly vaulted over, then gripped my neck with one hand. I hurriedly raised my arms to shield my face. But he just lowered his head and kissed me instead. The kiss wasn't as rough as I'd imagined, lingering and thorough, carrying an indescribable tenderness. I was stunned, suddenly recalling how the two of them had been when they first got together. Yen and Sinian met through a blind date. Back then, the Yen group hadn't gone bankrupt yet, and Yen was still the little princess doted on by everyone. She fell in love with Sinian at first sight, and after marriage. They seemed to have briefly enjoyed a few happy days. That was until the sudden bankruptcy of the Yen group implicated the Gu family, prompting Sinian to furiously accuse her of having planned it all along. Later, Lin Yuru returned, and the two gradually drifted apart. I sighed and thought, whatever, blame your own stupidity for being played like a fool by a supporting female character. Who knows how you even made all that money? I reached out and pushed Sinian, but he didn't budge. I let out a soft chuckle. Sinian, admit it, you're in love with me. Sure enough, Sinian immediately released me as if electrocuted, his face darkening as he snapped coldly, get out, get the hell out. After going upstairs, I heard Sinian calling Lin Yuro. Lin Yuro arrived quickly and deliberately made loud noises upstairs. I covered my ears and slept soundly through the night. Perhaps my threat about taking photos had intimidated Sinian. As he'd recently stopped being physically violent with me, at the company, Lin Yuro continued finding daily opportunities to make things difficult for me as usual. I managed to resolve everything without suffering much loss. In fact, I deliberately called my lawyer right in front of her. Attorney Zhou, what should I do if I want a divorce but my husband refuses? Assets. Oh, I don't want any assets. I just don't want to live with him anymore, but he won't agree. Would filing a lawsuit help? He just can't live without me. It's so annoying. Lin Yuru let out a scream, rushed over, and swatted my phone away. Yen, what kind of bullshit are you talking? Brother Sinian doesn't like you at all. I'm the only one in his heart. I sneered coldly. Don't be silly. If he likes you so much, why doesn't he marry you? Can't you think rationally? I'm penniless now. The Yen family would only drag down the Gu family. Yet he still refuses to let me go. And your Lin family is so wealthy. If Sinian married you, the Gu family could reach new heights. He's someone who values benefits so much, yet even then he didn't choose you. Don't you understand? Lin Yuru turned deathly pale, her lips trembling with grief and indignation as she swung her hand to hit me. I quickly dodged to the side, and her hand swiped through empty air. It's impossible, absolutely impossible. Don't delude yourself. Brother Sinian doesn't love you at all. These words snapped the last thread of restraint in Lin Yuro's mind. Finally, she decided to make her move against me. That day after leaving the office, I had just stepped out the main entrance when someone suddenly covered my nose from behind. When they tied me up and took me to the cliff's edge, I didn't resist at all. The kidnappers called Sinian, demanding he bring ransom money. Sinian came speeding over in his car. The wind was fierce on the cliff, my skirt billowing as I smiled at Sinian. Sinian, don't save me. Sinian's eyes were bloodshot. It was the first time I'd ever seen such a wretched expression on his face. I'm begging you, let her go. Name your price. Any amount will do. I took a step back, quietly cutting the rope with a blade hidden in my sleeve. Sinian, living is so exhausting. Goodbye. I glanced down at the churning waves below, spread my arms, and let myself fall, the moment I went over the cliff. I tucked my head with one arm while placing the other over my abdomen, executed 2.5 backward somersaults, and plunged into the sea with perfect form, sending up a small splash, deducting the highest score of 98 and the lowest score of 96. Lin Zian nearby gave me a thumbs up. Yen Yen, you truly are the most naturally talented diver I've ever taught. Rolling my eyes, I flapped my arms and swam forward. You've only ever taught me. Ahead, the sea stretched blue and vast. Like grand and boundless freedom, 3 years later, I returned to my homeland, Gu Sinian, and I met at a cocktail party. He stared at me dumbfounded, his wine glass slipping from his hand and shattering on the floor. His gaze burned with madness as he rushed forward and seized my arm. Yen Yen, oh, it's you. I patted the person beside me and introduced Gu Sinian to him. This is the guy who came before you, your predecessor husband. Ah, hello senior, hello senior. The young pup beside me politely shook hands with Gu Sinian. Please give me your guidance. There's still so much I need to learn from you. I waved my hand and shook my head. No need to learn from him. His skills, well, let's just say they're nothing special. Don't pick up bad habits when there's good to be learned. Gu Sinian stood rooted to the spot, fists clenched tightly, his face alternating between pale and flushed with disbelief. His lips trembled as he looked at me almost pleadingly. Yen Yen, what are you doing? You're just doing this to get back at me, aren't you? It was all a misunderstanding back then. It was entirely my fault, for these past 3 years. Gu Sinian searched for me like a madman while investigating the bankruptcy of the Gu Corporation. In the end, he discovered that all the evidence that made him believe I had deliberately schemed to get close to him was fabricated by Lin Yuru. He had also been completely unaware of my father's heart attack and subsequent surgery. Furious, Gu Sinian retaliated against Lin Yuru with relentless intensity. Under the Gu family's suppression in recent years, the Lin Corporation has been teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Little did he know, all of this was also part of Lin Xian's calculated plan. Lin Xian and Lin Yuro were half-siblings, and he had never been able to break free from the board's control. Lin Xian had already seized this opportunity to transfer most of his assets overseas, leaving the Lin family with a mess. The infighting within the Lin family was more complicated than I had imagined. As I left the cocktail party, Gu Sinian caught up with me. I'm sorry, Yen Yen, I love you. I just never had the courage to admit it. I used Lin Yuru to provoke you. Wanted to see you jealous. Wanted to see you go crazy for me. Yen Yen, I've always loved you. I just went about it the wrong way. Give me another chance, please. I impatiently signaled for someone to roll up the car window. Gu Sinian, I genuinely have zero interest in you. Could you stop bothering me? How pathetic can you be? Gu Sinian blocked the car to prevent me from leaving, suddenly inspired. I flashed the high beams at him while leaning out the window and shouting. Is this how you stage an accident scam? Security, security, come quick. The security guards dragged Gu Sinian away as I drove off triumphantly. It wasn't until much later that Gu Sinian realized the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Gu Sinian might have meant everything to Yen Yen, but to me, he was no different from a stranger. The calmness in my eyes drove him to utter despair. Seeing Gu Sinian hovering around me every day, Lin Yuro grew mad with jealousy. Finally, one day, she lost all reason and stabbed him with a knife. The two families settled privately, and Lin Xian took Lin Yuro abroad. Gu Sinian lay in his hospital bed for a long time. I went to see him, a glimmer of hope shone in Gu Sinian's eyes. He struggled to sit up, his gaze fixed intently on me. Yen Yen, I took out a stack of documents for him to sign. You were the one who cancelled my household registration when I went missing. Now that it needs to be restored, just sign here. Gu Sinian readily agreed. After signing, Gu Sinian suddenly seemed much more spirited. Sitting by the bed, he gazed out the window at the gentle April breeze, and hope likely blossomed anew in his heart. With the household registration restored, Yen Yen, since we never actually divorced, does that mean you're still my wife? I nodded. Of course I do. Anyway, the doctor said you don't have much longer to live. After you die, I'll inherit all your assets and live happily ever after. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.